So week 2, R511 is now being recorded to the cloud. For many people, this is the first course that they'll take in IST. For others, the course wasn't offered at a convenient time, and they've now decided to add it into their schedule. That being maybe Bo, or maybe they didn't plan to take it in the past, or Mika, or some others might have, thought about it. And now they decided to jump in for convenience or other reasons. Nicole is joining us. Glad to have you with us, Nicole. And so what I've tried to do during this semester is sprinkle in a combination of people who are exemplars of different occupations that you might get within the field. A couple of years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, I think in the fall of 2021, I had a lot of famous people in the field, but to be honest, they were a little bit too famous and a little bit too old to have, and just the Hung's laughing. No, I didn't bring Charlie Regaluth or Mike Melinda or anyone you know. They're from other places, I think. So when I first taught this course, the first 2 semesters, I brought all the emeritus professors, I think, who had designed and taught this class in the past. And also I used to bring all the book authors. I still do bring various book authors in from time to time, but I've gradually shifted this to having my guests be younger, more energetic, like Zihang and Ling, creative, and could really get you thinking about the kinds of positions that you might get after obtaining your master's certificate or doctorate within the field of IST. And that's going to be the case, especially in the first 6 or 7 weeks of the class. As I mentioned, in weeks like 7 to 11 or 8 to 11, we'll have people who have written books recently who are or might have been in the field a while. And I'm thinking possibly the last couple of weeks, I might bring a couple of former students in who are in the corporate training space, but I've not committed to them. I've left those weeks open, but there are a couple of people right now I've been emailing yesterday, and I'm thinking of inviting them back into our class. So a couple of things. In the chat window, if you've got someone or anyone you might recommend, that would be great. If not, that's fine. I'm also, and by the way, I added a TA in this class. We have 3 TAs and none of them are here. 2 of the TAs took the course last spring, the last time I taught. Kang Wei, who is a science ed doctoral student, and Katie Dixon, who's applying to our doctoral program. She's a master's student in the program. So the 2 of them will be giving you feedback on your blog posts as well as myself. The third one is Christian Smeltzer, who's about ready, I think, to take his qualifying exams. He's an EDD student living in Indianapolis. He's been my TA on a couple of different occasions. So he'll be coming to class live to handle the tech side of things, but right now he's on a travel adventure for the week. So anyways, we've added a third person. You'll see him next week probably and throughout. I'm wondering whether anyone would like to comment on whether Sundays are better than Mondays. I'm just curious because we had an equal number of people come today as what came a week ago. I'm thinking of maybe having a couple more sessions, these synchronous sessions on Sundays, I mean, at 11 o'clock, but most of them keeping on Monday nights at 7, I think we've kind of scheduled them for. Comments from anyone?
If we're going to do Sundays, I would prefer later on in the afternoon.
Right. Okay. Anyone else? I know we have to, a couple of different things happen on Sundays. People get their athletic juices going in the mornings and are involved in, some kind of sport activity. So that's important to keep in mind. Other people are in religious organizations, and still others have other commitments, family and other kinds of things. So we could do that later on a Sunday if we did. What about how we've scheduled it on Mondays at 7? Is 6 better for everyone? 7 better? 8 o'clock? What, Jennifer?
7 your time would be fine, but if you move it earlier, that complicates matters for me.
Right, gotcha.
It's a little challenging in my case too, just being on the West Coast and it kind of eating into the work schedule.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
And for me, 7 is fine. As I've mentioned before, I get off work at 6:30, and I usually have meetings on Mondays as well, but I just changed some of my mandatory meetings to Wednesdays so that I can make it to our meetings on Mondays at 7.
7. Matthew is 7, which is 4 o'clock in California. If there is a California, I'm not sure if it exists anymore. It's being kind of washed out.
Underwater, yeah.
Yeah.
Eroded.
Can you make it at 7?
You 7 Eastern time.
Yeah. No, 7 Eastern time. Yeah, yeah.
On Mondays.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think on the whole, it's probably going to be fine. The only thing I anticipate is occasionally there's some fire or emergency work-wise that, doesn't allow me to jump in at the right time,
So, and we'll record these and it'll go beyond, if you come 15, 20 minutes late, that's okay. You're not a firefighter. I know they have a lot of fires in California. Where do you live in California?
In LA County.
LA County.
Yeah, I use it metaphorically.
Yes, they no longer have fires there, they have floods.
Right.
Any other comments before we go to Ling and Zihang? Or questions? So I've asked Ling and Zihang to come in, not sequentially, but together. We're going to play off of each other and they're going to talk about their respective roles that they have. And they'll comment on each other. They've got beautiful slides they had last year that they were so encapsulating for everyone. I've invited them back. And Zihang actually had twice last spring. She came to visit twice because the second time she talked about backwards design. And so students were very interested in backwards design for whatever reasons. I'm a forward progressive kind of person. I don't want to go backwards, but so I don't know if you've decided, Ling and Zihang, which of you will start us off this morning. So Ling is coming from University of Akron. She got her master's in IST about 8 to 10 years, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, Ling? 2017, do you say? You're muted, by the way, or I can't hear you. You're not muted, but I wonder why we can't hear Ling. So we want to make sure your microphone is working. Zihang, can we test your microphone too?
Yes, I was talking.
Yep, okay, thought so. Ling? You might want to reboot, I think, is what's going to happen there. And so while Ling is rebooting, Zihang will start us off tonight and we'll add Ling in from point to point. So you'll have to decide, Zihang, what a convenient stopping point. I don't want you to go all the way through. We're going to go back and forth between the two of you, okay?
Sure, sure.
Can you hear me now?
So yeah, we can hear you now. Good.
I take off my AirPods. That's always cause my trouble.
So Ling is coming to us from University of Akron in Ohio, where I once was a fellow on a big reading project. It's a good campus, but they've run into budgetary crisis from time to time on that campus, and a lot of faculty have been fired, including one of our former students who had to take an early retirement. A very famous guy in problem-based learning space named John Savory, who we have some articles this semester from, Savory and Duffy on PBL. Zihang has been part of IU Bloomington as well as IU East, and she's part of the UX University Information Technology Services, which is the money pit, well, the money branches and trees of the university, because they charge students a special fee and all that fee money goes into UITS. And at some point, Zihang may move back from IU East in Richmond to Bloomington, where she owns a condominium townhouse. and she's waiting to move back to Bloomington. We all are waiting with bated breath with her son, Isaac, right?
Yeah.
Who is now maybe, I don't know, is he like 9 or 8? What is he?
8, but
8.
3 months from now, yeah, he will turn 9.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. And Ling, when did you graduate again? We didn't get that with your muted.
That was 2017.
17. Okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as long ago as I thought. So about 5 to 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And she's done quite well. So Zihang, Ling is very pedagogically creative, had many interesting ideas that she presented in my classes. So, and Zihang looked at digital badging at IUPUI and faculty who got different kinds of badges, what the experience was like. And she interviewed them, she surveyed them. And if you're interested in micro-credentials or nano degrees or digital badges or things of that regard, that's where education is trending today. It's a movement away from set master's and doctoral degrees towards getting a series of micro-credentials or badges. The word badges actually isn't used quite as much as what it was when Zihang first sent her proposal to me for a dissertation, but there's quite a bit of emphasis on getting those sorts of recognitions, credentials on one's transcript or in one's resume. Before we start, Ling or Zihang, you want to add to anything that I said about either of you?
No.
No, yeah.
So Zihang has a son, Isaac, who's going to be 8 soon. And right, is that what you said? He is 8, going to be 9 soon.
Yeah.
And Ling, your son is how old?
Daughter.
I have 2
Daughter.
daughters. One's 11 and one's 8. So gonna turn 9 soon. I just went to Lake Erie the day before yesterday for a gymnastic competition. So my older daughter is a gymnast, and I spend a lot of time and money on her. And as an instructor designer, I feel like, okay, most of the time I'm really working with them. And yeah, the rest of my time is working on my job.
So Zihang's son runs the family. He made sure that she finished her dissertation and gave her a big hug when she did finish, just in time. So so you see that I've brought in people who have families working, they're working, they have families, and they're still did their studies and completed, just like many of you might have a family at home to take care of. Instead of bringing all the people who are retired or about ready to retire, I wanted to bring some younger blood in. So the past couple of semesters I have. Who wants to start between the two of you?
It's okay. I don't have preference. Oh, one thing I kind of want to add, probably, if that could help motivate our students. So I am a single mom, like 4, 5, 6, I don't know, 6, 7 years probably have been a single mom. And so I was actually working on my dissertation, having a full-time job and taking care of Isaac all by myself in the past few years. And now I kind of defended my dissertation, got my PhD, and then I'm working on a business program at IU, Kelly School of Business. So I'm going to get a business degree. So hopefully like 2-3 years later, from now, I'm going to, have a major change in my career. And then, so.
Yep. So she got her doctorate and then came back for a master's in learning analytics, which is a hot topic. And so she's ambitious in addition to buying a house in IU East and raising a son and all those other things. Maybe we start with Ling.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Because I modify. Thank you for inviting me, and I modify my slides this year again.
Okay, great.
So
I would expect nothing less.
So let me see. No, actually, I can just show my slides like this. Okay, I'm just share in the editing mode. but it's okay. So hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and talking about my job. So first of all, I want to thank you, Dr. Bonk, and all of you. And also I want to make it clear, I'm talking about the job in the perspective of a Midwest, medium-sized university instructional designer perspective. Because since you are at Indiana University is a huge, big, grand university, which from the funding, from the position, and from the administrative level, and even the umbrellas, the organization is different. But for my perspective, I'm from University of Akron. As Dr. Bonk mentioned, we used to have a lot of resources, but this Ohio, I would say we have around 100 universities in a single state. So we are very hard to compete. And also because of the population changing and many young kids move out. Once they got a chance, they move out. And so the population overall is also declining, not like a Florida or Texas. So, but I still love this area. That's why I'm still staying here. The people here are very nice. So, okay, overall, this is the background. I wanted to make it clear before I talk about my job. I graduated from our Indiana University in 2017, and then I interviewed several universities, and then I choose the University of Akron as my next step. And here they gave me some like descriptions, what you should work on. So I was looking at those, I think, okay, no problem. As a master degree from Indiana University, we have all the skills, we know everything. So this is actually on when they hiring me, this is the list. And basically they are saying designing online or hybrid courses for 40%. And we needed to do the continuous quality improvement and innovation for 20%. And also provide the faculty for the instructional technology training. And I think it's like 20%, and just in time instructional technology support for 20%. Because we are a kind of a small university, we only have 7 people in the core team. So we basically do everything. Sometimes, as a bigger university and people have a lot of more subtle job description. Like if you are instruction designer, you probably only design and you do not need to develop. And some people just do instructional special technologist, and you just deal with all the learning management system problem. But for us, we do everything. We just rotate and take turn. But my main thing I want to share today, I think in my opinion, are the 2 things we are doing. One is the online courses design. And when we say online courses design, actually we are, from instructor designer's perspective, we are talking about like a program and a course level, or certificate and a courses level, which means as a university, again, like us, we try to be more competitive, because right now everything is online. People can easily just take online course from what is the university? Purdue University online. They always do the advertise on YouTube. So how can they want to choose us? So one important thing is we do now more and more collaborate with industry. For example, Intel recently they bought a big land in Columbus, and they decided to build another base. So they collaborate with many universities around it, and to create the certificate for their workers and future workers, which means we designed 5 courses and specific customized for Intel, and then they can even pay some potential employee, say, okay, go ahead and finish that education, and then we're gonna reimburse all the tuition fee and also hire you as a Intel employee. So we are doing similar, like the program design and the certificate courses design right now. And also because of that, at the beginning of this course, we were talking about which day is good to meet. So we try to do a fully asynchronous online courses, which give our online students the full flexibility. Of course, we also have some due date, but we wanted to make sure if they have kids they want to take to the football, or they have some family thing or work related, and then they have the full flexibilities.
So Ling,
Yes.
what Zihang has had a chat on the side.
Okay.
What we're going to do, we're going to have her comment at the end of every one of your slides. So when you go, why don't we go back to the previous slide?
Okay. Job.
And Zihang, why don't you jump in here and talk about your job for a second?
Wonderful. Thank you. I see that's when I'm sharing my screen. I didn't see the chat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Zihang?
Yes. Zihang, go ahead.
There we go.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Okay, I mean, at the beginning, I thought Dr. Bonk was going to ask us some questions, and then we two will, take turns to answer the questions. So I actually don't have slides for today's session. I thought it's more interactive conversation, that kind of. My job.
I sent the 5 questions. I think Ling has organized her slides into the 5 questions or 6 questions, right, Ling?
Not fully. I hide something, and I wanted to answer at the end.
Okay. Okay. So go ahead. Tell us about your job, Zihang.
Okay. My official title is Senior Instructional Technology Consultant, and the Learning Technologies Unit, and UITS and IU. UITS, I mean University Information Technology Services, is a big department, and IU. So there is a Learning Technologies unit under UITS, and I'm a senior consultant in the unit. And then I work with consultants from 9 or 8 IU campuses. Yeah, we are a big team. So that's my official title there. So Dr. Bonk was asking us the job description, right? The original job description. So I'm going to just kind of read that. So you might have to help you get a sense of what we do. And then after that, I'm going to talk about my actual job. What do I really do every day? So the job description in the original IU job post is first to support the director of the teaching center in the design, development, delivery, and evaluation of faculty professional development events that support IU's mission and the strategic plan, as well as promote best practices in teaching and learning. Second, to provide professional client support to all faculty, including tenure line, term, and adjunct faculty, through informed consulting practice, workshop facilitation, and project management. And the third, serve as expert resource on pedagogically appropriate uses of the full range of current and emerging instructional technologies, including LMS, active learning classrooms, and supporting technologies, and the collaboration, the social networking, portfolio building technologies, virtual conferencing, and the virtual learning environments, those kind of things. And then last but not the least, to conduct internal reviews of online courses using quality matters, QM, course review standards. And we can talk about QM if you haven't heard about it later. I mean, yeah, maybe at the end of this session if we have time. So that's the exact words in the original job description.
Zihang, that sounds daunting.
Really?
It sounds like all these jobs, when you read any job description today, they put like 50 things in there that you're supposed to do. And you're kind of like, in the old days, it'd be one or two things. Now it's like, you got to be near Superwoman or Superman to accomplish everything that's listed in there. And by the way, I did find the questions that I did ask,
Sure.
sent to you. So I do have those now. I apologize. My computer is still at Best Buy, so I'm using backup computer. So I didn't have them printed out. So
no problem.
yeah. So now, how have you become Superwoman or Wonder Woman, or have those become more refined in terms of focus, or does it shift from semester to semester based on current trends at the university and what people have put in strategic plans for you to do?
Sure. Thank you for the question. Before I share the answer, I kind of want to share with our students. You already mentioned a very important point that when you get to the point, applying for a job after, maybe at the end of this program, just go ahead and apply for the job. Even though you are qualified for maybe 1/3 of the requirements, especially for female students. I'm maybe biased here, but I really want to motivate female students, since we have been talking about this in the workplace training I have been participating. Since a lot of female students were employees, we feel like, okay, I'm not ready. Okay, this is this is a lot, right? I am not qualified for this one. Okay, I don't know this one. And no, I'm not 100% sure I can do this job. I'm not sure I'm qualified, so I'm going to drop it. I'm going to give it up, and then I switch to another post. But never ever do that. Just be confident, since once you graduated from this master program, and then I'm pretty sure you have everything you need to do this kind of job, and you are going to learn when you start to work. So that's one thing I want to share with our students. And then, okay, that's the ideal description, right, in the post. So what do I do actually in my daily job? So first, I design and develop and deliver faculty workshop. So for example, this semester, I'm going to deliver faculty workshops on the accessibility tool Ally, and then PlayPosit, how faculty could use PlayPosit to make their slides or their videos more interactive, so they can insert more interactive pieces in their videos, and then how they can use Microsoft Teams to deliver more interactive teaching. So those kind of things. Faculty workshop development and delivery. And second, I provide consultations to faculty. So they might want to design a new online course, or they want to redesign their online course, or they want to kind of design some new pieces in their course. For example, one faculty member wanted to create badges for student learning, and she was teaching public speaking course, and she actually designed some digital badges. But she wanted to have a meeting with me and talking about how she should be doing. I mean, what she should be doing to design those kind of things, and then to add that piece in the student assessment. So all kinds of topics for faculty consultations. And then the third one is to serve on different kind of committees, including internal and external committees. So right now I'm serving on the IU Teaching with Technology Faculty Showcase Committee. So every semester, I work with other people from other campuses, and then we invite faculty members to share their experience using some kind of technology in their teaching. And also I serve on the, earlier, I stopped doing that this semester. So earlier I was serving on the IT leadership action team. So we talk about, the leadership kind of stuff. And then this semester I joined a new team, is IU System-Wide Learning Data Innovation Assembly. So we get together talking about how we can use all sorts of student data for different kind of purposes. This is the internal committees. Also, I serve on, the external committees like a Unison, like a Pod, like a EduCause, learning analytics or teaching faculty development or teaching and learning committees, those kind of things. And it's so much fun to talk with people from other universities, like the top 10, not top 10, Big 10, Big 10 universities. And then you can see what they are doing, what they are working on. And then the last
Let me pause you for a second. I have a slide in the second half after break on organizations that you can join. And I don't have Pod on the list, EduCause on the list, or Unison on the list. I'm going to have to add those three because, I've got a bunch on the list. And so these lists of organizations, there are so many different ways you can get involved externally, organizations you can join that are related to your professional interests. There are conferences in educational technology or related to educational technology or online learning or this and that. That number in the hundreds, if not the thousands. So it's hard to, when we and IST tend to talk about one conference like AECT, there are many other conferences that you could go to, many other organizations. Zihang, I'm sorry, you're going to make one more point here.
I was just slipped. So I just type it in the chat pod if you don't know.
Unison is related to Canvas and or an organization of universities that IU headed to make decisions together so they have more purchasing power. They can get discounted books and work with Canvas to make changes to Canvas and other kinds of things. So it's mainly a university type of organization that includes IU and I think Oklahoma and probably Michigan and many other campuses. And IU is one of the leaders of that. And our dean, Stacy Maroney, was the head of Unison for a while, in fact.
Sure. Yeah, I remember what I was going to say. So when I was a student, like a PhD student in the program, I was the member of AECT, AERA, and ISPI, those kind of more academic for people from academia, right? For research kind of purpose, primarily. And now I work as a profession. After I work for IU, I join more like organizations. I think of maybe including people from different tracks, like practitioners, technologists, and then researchers, and then so it's not only focusing on faculty, not only focusing on research. So Unison, Pod, EduCause, Eli is under EDUCAUSE. So those are the organizations for practitioners. If you are curious, you can just search for those keywords and then you can find their websites. And then
Does,
you can, yeah.
does Unison stand for something? The acronym?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I made it.
Yeah.
I put it in the slides for the second half. Thank you, Zihang. I've added all three. And Ling has an interesting story to tell about how she got her job. I know this, and she was kind of sneaky. And so, if you wanted to take the sneaky way of getting a job, Ling, tell us how you you were smart and astute, not sneaky, very smart and wise as a young person.
Thank you, Dr. Bonk. Actually, Zihang inspired me. I want to add on some the comments about the jobs. Recently, I will start from my story. Recently, I talked with my coworkers, talking about the salary. Very important. As instruction designer, I asked them why you do not go to the other university. I realized in the U.S., I was a foreigner and I'm now still an alien resident. So I realized in the US, if you want to get a higher salary, you have to jump from one place to another place. And they told me they really have, of course, later on I realized I'm the same too. We really have the great passion on using our expertise to help our students and potentially future students to improve the online course quality, to help them succeed. So that's really the passion to keep people in higher ed. What I'm saying this because many of our ST graduate students, they went to the industry and their salary is twice or three times than in higher ed. But come back to Dr. Bonk's question, how I can get this job. I think one thing is since I started as a student at IU, I started working as a part-time. Like one is in CITL when I think Zihang went back to like China for half a year, some break, and they want to hire another person. And then I was so lucky to follow Zihang. I got hired at a CITL. Do you remember that, Zihang? So that part really helped me in my working experience as instruction designer in the overall, the higher ed and the environment. And another one is I actually started looking at the jobs from the very early time. One thing I want to share is called a website called Higher Ed Jobs. It's like a government jobs. They have an overall website. Later on, I realized most of the universities, if they want to hire an instruction designer or related position, they're gonna post it over there. That's the government require them have to do that. So you do not need to apply now, but you can start looking at them to see the trends, what they need, what you lack, and what you are still needed to work on to make you be the best candidates. And that's the second thing I really want to share. And the third one is to use all your connections. Like Zihang and I, we are all your connections now. And when you decide, okay, this is time I want to apply, and just started make your other connections and talking to people, and even like send email to me, say, Ling, do you have a time? I want to do a mock interview. And I will do as a employer's perspective and asking questions. And you will realize, oh, yeah, so I thought I'm good at answering this question, and actually not yet. So this is also a good practice and to help you get the best job you you're gonna have. And maybe after a couple of years, I'm gonna go to the industry and will bring us more experience and knowledge about how instructional designer do, yeah, in industry.
Ling, did you ever, I'm sorry, I missed that. Did you tell them how you interviewed and succeeded in a sneaky way, how you got that job?
So yeah, actually this job specific, I have so many lucky points. And one is the previous boss is John Savvy. I forgot.
John Savory.
Savory, yes, Savory. And he was Dr. Bonk's student, right? I think I remember. So when I got the on-campus invitation, I talked to Dr. Bonk right away. And then I got connected with Professor
Savory, yeah.
Savory. And then so he was very nice. And we had a dinner before that interview. And, you know, I do not know anything, but I believe it helped me a lot in getting to know the people, and also feeling that I think it's very important to feel this is your place and this is your people. And I feel like sometimes once you get to the point, is just the connection between you and your future colleagues.
But didn't they give you a test that you had to take? Or
yes. Okay,
questions?
that
Yeah,
story.
tell them
Yes.
about the test, the sneaky.
Yes. Yeah, that's very interesting. I got to know that's my real story. So they gave me a test, very hard. I saw Bo just ask, what's the difference between the different learning management system? I was at IU, we use Canvas, but they use Brightspace. University of Akron use Brightspace, and they gave me a specific, very hard question from the real scenario. A faculty asking, how can I incorporate some like a math formula and like a hard questions from the other system into this system? I feel like I cannot answer this question, but I just didn't give up. I talked to several our graduate students who were TAs back then at Indiana University, and talk about asking them, do you know this question? Do you know this, how to do that? And I collect enough information, and I just use our instructional design process. I said, I did the analysis first. I interviewed the people, and then I came out with some strategies. Even those strategies I could not test, I could not implement. And then what is the possible solution? I was very humble. I said, I don't know. And I don't think I can solve this problem. During the presentation, the on-site interview, I was telling them that I could not have find the final solution, but what I did is I did the analyze and then strategies and the evaluation. I used that process to the end. I said at the end, I think if we want to solve this issue, we needed to have a team to work on it. And at the end, I am the best person based on later on they told me who presented, because many people just say, oh, we can do this. But that's actually not my employer, my boss was looking for. They are looking for people using the knowledge and the skills to solve the issue, but also looking for collaboration, looking for potential different options, solutions. So yeah, thank you, Dr. Bonk.
And some humbleness.
Yes.
Before you go, we're going to go back to your slides in a second, but I want to make sure, Zihang, do you have any comments before we proceed? Do you have anything you want to say?
Oh, I was actually typing, but I didn't finish it. So I'm going to just say it. I think one challenge for us in this field is we have to keep track of the new technologies, right? We cannot just, okay, I know how to use Canvas, then that's it. And there will be always new technologies. And for example, I'm not sure whether you have heard about ChatGPT. That's a hot topic right now, and everybody is talking about it. And actually this coming week, IU is going to offer faculty a webinar talking about, how, this Chat GPT is going to influence the teaching and learning, and how influence faculty and students. So one thing, I mean, everything is changing. So one thing is not going to change is there will be always change, right? And so we have to keep track with the new technologies, and we have to keep learning. I think that's one challenge for us.
So I'm in charge of the Teaching and Learning with Technology Committee at IE in Bloomington, and we just sent an email to all faculty. I will send it to the class with the webinar link. So you could take that ChatGPT webinar if you'd like to on Wednesday afternoon, I think at 3 o'clock Eastern. And we're being inundated with ChatGPT. I've just started a research project on ChatGPT on language learning with one of my doc students. But this is a trend that 10 years ago was MOOCs, 13 years ago was ebooks, 2 years ago was immersive augmented reality and virtual reality. Over 35 years ago was hypermedia, multimedia. We go through phases in higher ed and trends in higher ed. But I think the AI trend is different in some ways because it's augmenting what humans can do and hopefully raising us to a higher level of thought, potentially. That was a discussion yesterday in Silver Lining for Learning, my podcast show. We will have a session also on PlayPosit, which you mentioned. One of you mentioned PlayPosit.
Me.
Yeah, and so we will have a free, and so I have 6 sessions coming up with different technology tools as part of the LTT. I will invite the whole class once we have those sessions formalized, and the times. They'll be in January, February, March on e-textbooks, on PlayPosit, on Microsoft Teams, and other kinds of things. So I'll try and do that. Ling, you want to advance to the next slide and take us through those questions.
Yes. Let me share my slides again. So actually, I was not fully going through all the questions. I think I embedded them into the slides.
That's fine.
And I was thinking within the limited time, what is the main point I really want to share? And I was on this page. I highlighted 2 things that really in my work I'm doing almost daily. And one is the course design, as Zihang mentioned. And the other one is another kind of a trend right now in many universities is the learning outcomes. So because almost all the programs, they need like a certification, they need a credential, they have different committee come over to evaluate them every 3 to 5 years to make sure they are still in a good shape and they are doing good for the students. So those involves a lot of data. So what as instruction designer are doing is also we are helping them build the assessment system to make sure they are using the learning management system to collect the data. And then I think one big thing, if you have extra time, you should work on is to learn how to do the data visualization and the big data related skills definitely will add on your resume. So and I was also thinking if Zihang doesn't have any ad, let me just move on to the next one. I really wanna talk about it is what are the cool things to do? As Dr. Bonk mentioned, the technology changed very often, also in higher ed. So we are basically doing some new tools, learning tools, or like iLi, or some new things almost every year. So one of our job is talking to different vendors, because university is a big consumer, or the person, the party potential to purchase more new learning tools. And based on one learning management system, we actually add on many new, like the other learning tools, like what we are using, like recording the video, we use Panopto, and adding on interactive activities, we use H5P. And so like recently we are doing some collaboration with a company in Europe, and they are doing the peer evaluation tool. They call the feedback fruits. So those are the things we keep learning, open our eyes, and to get to know what is the cutting-edge technology right now in the world. And we just buy it and get it into our system and help our faculty and students. And I list game design because the older I realize we need to have more fun in life and the work. So I keep Dr. Bonk's like 100 innovative learning and teaching activities, that book, in my office. Very often I'm gonna just open it and see if there are some new ideas I can borrow. And so what we do is always be creative, always getting some new things and be innovate, because once you are creative and you're innovative, you can also help faculty to open their mind to be fun in the class, in the course.
Ling, may I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm just wondering what the process is that you go through when you or someone on your team identifies a new piece of technology that
Yes.
might be well received or well utilized at the university. How do you take that, present that to the higher ups, and try and convince them that this is going to be a worthwhile tool to invest in?
That's a really great question. It is very tricky because from our team, we are the to support faculty, so we cannot make that purchase decision. But we are also very important because we know the tool first. So we basically make our basic the idea, we realize, oh, this might be a good thing. So we will form a faculty group and let them test it. Usually we will have like a 3 month to a half a year window. And usually the company will also very happy to work with those faculty. And then once they test it, they said they really like it. And the faculty proposed to the upper level, because never the purchase are cheap. So they are, and then because all the university mostly are the faculty oriented, initiated. So at the end, that's their decision, and to ask the higher level and to buy. Even though actually initiatively is us, but we do not make it that way.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
No problem.
I had maybe a somewhat similar question, but maybe in a different vein. Because there is so much technology and it's just at an exponential pace, do you find that what enters kind of your particular ecosystem, if you will, is based on a trend or something that you seek out to identify, or does it come from the faculty in some way? Like, how does it tend to rise to the surface so that you put more of your attention on it? Is it your own kind of direction, or is it you feel like it's kind of coming into your orbit and you can't help but address it in some way?
Thank you for asking this. So I would say every day I probably will get at least 10 to 20 emails from different vendors introducing their new product. But most of the time I will ignore because there are too many over there. So how can we really focus on one? One is from our faculty, like for example, the feedback fruit, we haven't purchased yet. We are in the like a testing phase, but because in our university, faculty care about a peer evaluation, but we haven't really found an even better solution. So this is one thing raised up from the teaching side. We know we need this, and then we are kind of more focused looking at when someone say, oh, we have a very good peer evaluation tool. So that's definitely stand up more than, okay, I have a good captioning tool. So this is one thing. Another one is still as a like a Midwest university, we also kind of trying to catch up with the other higher level universities. Like MIT is using that. That's what we know. That's why we think, okay, we're gonna take a close look at it to see if they really can bring more benefits than just the, you know, the cost of the money. So many factors get together to the end. And also, you know, sometimes when you, I know the company is sending emails to everyone, but sometimes also is the upper level decision, like my boss, if she realized, oh, this is very important, she push it and definitely has much more impact than me.
Ling, you mentioned my free book, and I put the link into the Tech Variety book. It's available in Chinese at that link if you speak Chinese, and in English. Zihang and Ling both speak Chinese, so they can get that one, but in English as well. But what Ling doesn't know, I think, is that there is a new book that I just put in there and a free class. And I mentioned that last week in 511. This came out in September. It's basically a shortened version of the 100 Activities book and more updated with a class around it, produced by the Commonwealth of Learning in Vancouver, which is trying to help all the former British colonies in the global South. So we're trying to train teachers in India and Jamaica and parts of Africa and Malaysia and so forth and so on, including New Zealand, which is not part of the global South necessarily, but all the former British colonies. And you can all have that for free as well. It's pretty slick, actually. Pretty well done. The first book, I was first author with Elaine Coe from New Zealand. The second book, Elaine is the first author, and I'm the second author. So I just want to throw that in there. We haven't heard from Zihang in a while. Do you want to comment on anything that she had in her slides related to cool tools before we move to the next slide, Zihang?
Okay, I was answering some private messages
in
the chat part.
Thank you.
So I was typing and then answering the question. Sorry, I might missed a little bit.
So what have you been telling people in private chats that you might want to tell everybody about?
I'm not sure whether you want me to share. So what was your original question?
Oh, what cool tools does IU seem to be embracing? Is Play Posit is one of the cool things today, I guess.
Oh, yes. Let me maybe share my screen here. So I was actually let me see. Okay. Can you see this site?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm in the sharing mode. Okay, so that's next.iu, this page, which I already shared in the chat pod. You can just click on that, and then you could see this. So each semester we have some new pilots, and then I think Play Posit was one of them. But now we officially, I think, signed the agreement with Play Posit, and then so IU is full. I mean, it is fully supported by IU right now, and we are promoting Preposit this semester, so faculty are motivated or encouraged to use that tool. So currently there's Top Hat. I mean, we have been using Top Hat, but this is the new version of Top Hat. And the Great Scope, I think this tool is primarily for faculty, so they can use this tool to enhance their grading kind of productivity. And then Yuzha, I actually don't know how to pronounce them. There are some new technologies, new tools, new names. Panopto, yeah, is another one, is for video creation, media.
This is what we are using.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
right now IU is using Kaltura, but
Right.
I think we have maybe 2 more year contract, I think, with Kaltura, and we are thinking about exploring on other tools. That's why we have those in the current pilots, and we want faculty to use it, to adopt it in their teaching, and then we are going to collect feedback from them, so to decide whether we are going to use it or not. And so there are some new tech, and this one is for learning analytics, and then so once faculty use it, they are going to see all kind of data, like how when student log into the site, and then just all sorts of data, collaboration, communication, sign in the site, their engagement data, grading. Yeah, so those are the new pilots for now, for this year.
I hope we don't move from Kaltura. I'm kind of liking Kaltura. I'm using it a lot, but I guess I'll learn Panopto. It's been a tool that's been around for a while.
Yes, actually, I really don't want it to go. I want them to, I think probably because of the price, since you have to get a good deal, right, to negotiate and then to get a good deal. But if they keep
Right.
kind of pushing, and then we have to make a decision.
So it's just like Zoom is a question whether we'll move away from Zoom to Microsoft Teams. What's happening on the IU campus is administrators are using IU Teams, administrative meetings, but classes will still be in Zoom like this one, which was giving me a heart attack. We're going to move from Zoom, and other faculty as well. We probably need to move to the next slide. I'm sorry, Ling, you want to move us to the next question there? So the questions that were on the list was give you some of your background, the job description, we've covered that. What do you really do in your job? Not what's in the job description. We've kind of covered that. How has your job changed recently? Before we go to your next slide, Ling, how has your job changed recently? And we'll go to Zihang too. Anything that's new?
I didn't prepare data slides, but is related with the previous, like what I'm doing right now. So one thing I already mentioned, I think very new is the learning outcomes. I remember when I was at IU on Canvas, there was one learning outcomes tab there, and I was asking my supervisor, back then, like really 5 years ago, I asked, what's the difference of the learning outcome and assessment? And she said, never mind, don't bother with that. We do not use that. And so that's why when I came to this university, when we also here realize outcomes will be a big thing in the future, I jumped out. I said, I want to work on this because that's brand new. Usually that is a add-on function for a learning management system. Like for example, you pay 10,000 a month on the fundamental functions of the learning management system. If you want to use the outcomes tool or function, they will charge you extra. So yeah, that's how they earn money. And we decided to move on to do that. So I I am the first person in my campus, on my campus, to support that function. So that is, I think, one new thing we are doing. It is still not easy to change people's way of thinking. Like once you really got into the job, you realize many new universities, many faculty, they keep their older style forever. They're still using the Excel sheet, and it is not easy. But eventually, right now, we already start the third program. I put all their set up all the learning activities, rubrics, and evaluation assessment on the system. So when they needed the data, I easily using the tool to pull the data and present to them.
So learning analytics is linked in there, which is what Zihang is studying for her master's. Is the same thing, looking at outcomes and learning analytics and personalizing learning, something that's happening in the IU system, Zihang?
You mean this program?
Yeah. Oh no. Is your job changing in terms of looking more at outcomes and learning analytics, just like Ling's is?
Yes. So before I share more, I want to make sure Ling has finished her sharing.
Yes.
Kinda. Oh, okay, good. Actually, before this meeting, I was, kind of thinking about the questions that you shared with us last week, and I was thinking, okay, what kind of new things, right, in my job, and then still I'm doing faculty workshop, faculty consultation, serving on committee, but I do notice this is one new thing for me, is learning analytics. So this term just, has come up more and more often. And actually my boss, the IU, they haven't actually talk about some or brought up new requirements. I can still do what I normally do, but this is kind of toward my personal interest, since I'm doing a business analytics degree from business school, and in the past few years, more and more faculty came up to me. They said, "Oh, Zihang, now I have those data in Canvas, in Kaltura. Can you work with me?" Because they know I'm working on my dissertation. They know I know how to do research, I think. So they said, "Can you work with me so we can design a study? And I want to kind of do some analysis, right, on those data, available data. And I want to find out the problems in my teaching. And then you can help me to design some teaching interventions." So I did work with a few faculty members. So for one faculty member, we got data from Kaltura, and we look at, okay, how many students actually watched the recordings, the videos through Canvas, and then how many students dropped right in the middle, and how soon they dropped when they watch a specific video. And we got all those kind of data. Students probably haven't, they were not aware of, that actually faculty do have those data. Like Dr. Bonk actually can take a look at those data and see, which students already watched the recordings of this session. And then it's very interesting, actually. We look at those data, we did some analysis. And then like Ling mentioned earlier, we did a data visualization and put it in a post, and we actually made a presentation and a conference, like a teaching conference, and sharing with other faculty. And then I just I noticed that pattern, or the trend. More people, they want to know how to do with those data, since we have more and more data in all sorts of educational technology platforms, and how we can use those data for teaching and learning and to improve teaching and learning, right? And I shared in the chat pod earlier. So if you look at the top 10 IT issues like offered by EDUCAUSE in this year, last year, and then I think the year before, they all mention the data, like a security or data privacy or something like that. So now we have a problem, not problem, we have those data, how we are going to protect students data, the data privacy, how we are going to use those data to improve teaching and learning, how we can use those data to predict which students is going to succeed in this class, and we are going to predict which students are going to graduate, within a few years. So people are doing prediction to do forecasting, to do something with like data, student admission, student graduation rate, and then their career development. Yeah, so it's a trend and it's a new field. It's a very hot field right now. If you want to, look into that, it's called the learning analytics. And then there are a lot of groups or communities actually formed, like within pod, within EDUCAUSE, within Unison, they all have this learning analytics committee or learning analytics groups. So people, faculty, researchers, and practitioners, they are looking at this. And then, so I think it's a very, very interesting field, and you might want to take a look. And then it's there would be, I think, better job opportunities in that field comparing to the instructional designer positions.
So that's why I brought you in here, Zihang, is to tell people a bit about what are the areas in which people could get a job in the near future when they do graduate. And so that's very valuable. Thank you for mentioning that. I think the combination between learning analytics and research, which you mentioned, they might not have normally thought, about research opportunities as an instructional designer, but there are many research opportunities that exist within the field. So my recommendation for all of you is, if you have a chance to take an additional research-related class, or I'm not sure what's required within if you're a master's student certificate or if you're a doctoral student, but always taking an extra research class is beneficial. You'll find some use for it somewhere. And in today's world, any course related to data analysis, outcomes, learning analytics, and that kind of thing. In my other class, we're going to bring Alyssa Wise in, who's an alum of IST, well, she had her master's in IST, her doctorate in learning science. She's an expert at NYU in learning analytics. Any of you are welcome to attend that as well. She'll be coming January 31st at 6 o'clock. If she's got a couple books related to qualitative data analysis tools. She's got like a $68 million grant proposal in right now with a medical school, like big money. She's quite productive person. We probably need to go to the last slide, one or two more slides, because we've gone an hour and I promised you only an hour. So Ling, you have one or two slides you want to call up to wrap up here, and then we'll go to student questions. Ling.
Yes. So because I needed to take my kids to the Chinese school in the afternoon. So
sorry, you need to go soon.
But this is actually comes to my my last slides and the summary of my work. I would say very important is communication and collaboration. No matter in higher ed or industry, it is so important to to communicate, to let people know. Sometimes we thought, but we really didn't. Sometimes you need to say it aloud, like especially when you do the project group work, to appreciate the other people's help, ideas, and I always give credits to all our team, no matter how many they did. This is, I think, one very important key. And also, like, yeah, like Dr. Bonk mentioned, humble is important too. Even though you are, when you do the consultation, no matter one-on-one or the faculty training as a group webinar, everyone has their own expertise. So we really respect, no matter which area they are from, and we recognize their work. And I would say the last two are recently more come to me. One is the creativity. You really need to keep in mind to be a creativity person and stick with Dr. Bonk with his course. It's very important. It has continuous impact on me since I graduate. And also the details. The details is the most important thing as an instructor designer. No matter how you communicate, the emails and the course design. So for example, when I designed a course for law school, the students, they are crazy. They pick out every little single mistakes you made. So yeah, details also means the good quality, and it present to you. So yeah, this is my quick summary, and I would. So what I did is, yeah, all the titles, instructor designer is like a big thing. There are so many names. They are creating names too. Like even recently, they are using module designer, and you just sign up, hire at the jobs. They send an email to you every week and let you know all over the United States which university is hiring and what is the things they are looking for. And the last is, this is my contact information. Anytime you want to talk about more things, or you want to do a mock interview, or you know more about this job, yeah, please let me know. I will be always very happy to do so.
Thanks, Ling. And Ling pointed out the course on creativity is not this class. It's my Saturday class called R511, which I'll do online next time, hopefully in the fall semester. It's an 8-week course on critical and creative thinking, cooperative learning, motivation, and technology integration that I've taught for over 30 years, since I was 8 years old. So it's a long time I've been doing the class, and the free book kind of comes out of that class. So really the ideas of the class went into the free book and many other books. So thanks, Ling, on that. So you can stop sharing your slides, I think. And I think maybe we should go to, before we go back to Zihang, because I know Ling needs to leave for Chinese school. Does anyone have a final question for Ling before she departs? Or a comment? Anything that's not been answered today or would like to know about? So you can put 3 words in the chat window for Ling.
Thank you, guys. It's so nice meeting all of you.
If you could share your slides with me, I will post the slides to Dropbox under guest slides. That would be great.
Will do.
Yeah, that'd be great. So let's give Ling a round of applause, and we'll keep Zihang here another 5 minutes, if that's okay, Zihang.
Nice seeing you, Ling.
Nice seeing you too, Zihang. Take care.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ling.
Bye.
Bye. So do any, do you want to comment on anything that Ling has said or anything that we haven't gotten to? One thing we didn't get to is what is your definition of educational technology or instructional technology? I'd be curious to hear because I'll talk about that after break here about both of those. And that's normally the first assignment in this class is to define what educational technology is and instructional technology is. I deleted that assignment a year or two ago. I found that it got people thinking, which was good, but there were too many assignments. So I had to delete something. So that's the one that went. So Zihang?
Yeah, I think my definition is very, very simple. It's just technologies used for educational purpose. It's for K-12 students learning, for college student learning, for employee training. So technology is used for all sorts of learning and training. That's my definition.
Do you see a difference between the word instructional technology and educational technology, and what would the difference be?
Yeah, actually, Dr. Bonk is kind of interesting. I recently read something, and then I forgot where, but some people divided it into two educational technologies into two types. One is pedagogical kind of technology, and then the second type is operational technology. Yeah, so I think probably it's kind of, it feels similar to what you just said, right? It's just like for some technologies, it's just to keep people learn and work. We use Word, we use all those kind of technologies to do different kind of things, but that's kind of the bottom level. And then on top of that, we use technologies, especially for teaching and learning purpose. Like, for example, for I'm not sure whether you heard about that. There's a tool, I think it's developed by IU people. It's called a Quick Check. And then some faculty use Quick Check in their Canvas courses. So they could integrate that tool in Canvas site, and then it can be used for formative assessment, like a very low stake assessment, and then to frequently check students' knowledge, like we call it a quick check. So there could be unlimited attempt, and students keep checking and until they master the concepts. So that's kind of tool for education purpose. So I do think, yeah, there are different types of technologies. One is for operational technology, one for like time management or something like that, and then the other type is just for teaching and learning.
Yeah. So EDUCAUSE is a big umbrella organization that people tend to think is more of a techie, more the operational side.
Yes.
But then there's a conference called EDUCAUSE Learning Initiative, ELI.
Yeah,
more
ELI.
on the pedagogical side. So when we talk about educational technologies, we could cover, it's a wide gamut in effect. And those that are interested in the pedagogical side of things might want to attend the LE conference as opposed to the EDUCAUSE conference or something else. So yeah, we'll get into that more after break. Does anyone have a question for Zihang before she goes and before we take a break?
Yeah, I had a question about the Quick Check. I was curious whether you all developed that because it could do something that you couldn't do with the formative quizzes that are already that you can set up in Canvas. I was just wondering why you developed an extra tool.
Yeah, I think actually IU, we have under UITS, right, we have different teams. So I'm in this learning technologies team. And then in this team, we have also different units like collaborative technologies. We have teaching and learning, like a teaching center. So we have student engagement, faculty engagement, those kind of teams. Yeah, we do have a team. They are developers, and then they develop those small apps and then people can integrate in learning management system. And the Canvas does provide, tons of features, but sometimes they cannot meet our local needs. And then that's why IU team, we have the in-house team developers to develop those applications. And there's another example is Boost. So this team created a tool called Boost, and the faculty can use it. And then student can use that tool to get notifications. Okay, there's a assignment due. There's something on my to-do list. So they are going to get all notifications through that tool, and to keep them on top of everything. So Canvas, they collect feedback from users, from faculty, from each institution, but sometimes the development cycle is so slow. It's just so slow. They have to collect feedback and then maybe wait a few years and then to develop that tool, or maybe not. But to better serve our faculty and students, we have this local team to develop, the apps for people.
So there's another conference between LE and EDUCAUSE. I don't have my list and my slides in the second half, and that's called Online Learning Innovate and Online Learning.
OLC.
OLC is the Online Learning Consortium.
Yeah.
And if you're an IU student, I think you have access to that conference free, virtually, not face-to-face. The face-to-face is very expensive.
It's like a $800-900 for a registration fee.
For face-to-face.
For face-to-face.
But for online, it's free. So just keep in mind, you can get a very high quality conference for free because you're an IU student. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost 100% sure.
I'm sure.
Because IU formed a contract with EDUCAUSE, and they will get it for free. It's in October, usually in the fall, and it's often been in Disney World, face-to-face. But the last couple of years, it's not been in Disney World, but when I went, it was. And in the spring, it rotates to different places. So online learning accelerate, online learning innovate.
Yes.
And if you want a conference that's between the operational people and the pedagogical people, the Online Learning Consortium, somewhere in between being a techie and being a creative pedagogy person, they have both. And it's quite large, actually, the Online Learning Consortium itself. And I'm doing a special issue. It's coming out in March. We're just finishing the introduction now, today, of the Online Learning Journal, which is a free journal, and that you can download the articles. We're doing a systematic review of the research in online learning. So there's a set of 9 articles coming out during this semester that you'll have access to, that comes from the Online Learning Consortium. But all their prior journal articles are free from the online OLC. Just type in Online Learning Consortium Journal, and you'll see that I'm on the board and other people are. So I just want to make you aware of OLC. It's not on my slides. I'll mention again. I think we're gonna have to go to break. But any final comments for Zihang before we do? It's good to have 2 people, always good to have 2 people to play off against one another. It was great having Ling have slides and you not, because we would have way over if you had slides. So it was good just commenting on her slides, Zihang. But if you can find those slides that you presented last year on backwards design, I'll post those as well for my students if you do find those, because they might find them to be of value, Zihang.
Dr. Bonk, I'm pretty sure I didn't have a slide. So I was using the Canvas site. Actually, let me maybe quickly show students that, if you think maybe 1 minute.
Yeah, just 1 minute. Yeah.
There's a, where it is. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, got it.
What are you showing us?
The backward design.
Okay.
So this is a online course we designed for IU faculty. They never taught online, or they don't have a lot of online teaching, online course design experience. And then, so the first thing we were talking about is the backward design. And you might learn different instructional design models, right? In your maybe
521.
Yeah, I don't remember the number.
Maybe
So,
711 with it too. Maybe this in this class and the week
yes,
after.
Yeah, you might learn different models, but now in daily work and in reality, and then in higher ed, a lot of people are using backward design. They are talking about backward design. And then if you want to learn more about it, yeah, you can just search for it online. And then you are going to see, different organizations, higher ed institutions are using it and help faculty using it to design their online courses, not only online courses, but all sorts of kind of hybrid or face-to-face courses. The basic philosophy here is just to think about your goals first, and then to make sure you align, to make sure the learning activities, content, and assessment are aligned with learning outcomes. So always start with learning outcomes. Always start with what you want your student to be able to do at the end of this course. So yeah, that's kind of, don't want to talk more about it, but here, since you really need a break, but just want to kind of share with you that's something you might want to take a look on backward design. And then we use that a lot in practice.
Thank you again, Zihang. And you can send, did you put the link in the chat for that so people could explore that?
That's an online course. That's a Canvas course site.
Oh, they need password to get
they
into
have
that?
to register. Yeah, that's for faculty, IU faculty.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, let's give Zihang a round of applause. It's great to have both Ling and Zihang who have gotten their degrees within the IST program in the past, in case of Zihang, in the past 9 months. It was May 2022 when she walked through graduation. So it's great to have her come back and have her be an employee of IU. She never leaves. She's never going to go. We won't go.
Yeah, with all the benefits I get from IU, I think it's very hard to make the decision to leave.
IU has a great medical system and healthcare and other kinds of things. And actually, IU has one of the highest retirement contributions in the country.
10%.
10%, and it's higher for faculty. When I started, it was higher before I started. So let's pause this, and then I'll tell you more off the record. I'm recording. So this is being recorded in part 2 of week 2 of R511 in the spring of 2023. Do I have any questions about the course in general? Due dates, tasks, readings, the blogging kind of thing. People have had questions about, do I need to post every week? Well, yeah, yes and no. It says in the syllabus says 15 times. You could post 15 times in 1 week if you want to and be done with it, but I would not recommend that as a strategy. Do you have to post on the articles for the particular week? Yes and no. If you read different articles from what's assigned, it's perfectly fine to blog on those and not read any of the articles that are in the list for that week. If you want to explore a topic in more depth that we cover for 1 week, and you'll have a second week on a particular topic, by all means, you could put, for instance, if I have 8 articles assigned for 1 week, and you're to pick 3 to 5, you could pick 4 articles for 1 week and pick 4 of the other ones the other week. And, so I'm not going to hold a whip over you in terms of what particular articles you talk about, but in your blog, you should reflect on the articles that you have read. It's better if you follow along because your peers who will be assigned in your team will have read the same things, will be more cogent in what they say and how they react to what you've put in your blog post. So it helps, but it's not a requirement. And so do you have to post early in the week. It would help if you post early in the week, but it's not required. If you miss a week, and some people do, some people will get behind, they get sick, or some things come up at work. If you miss a week, you can play catch up and you will not have points deducted from you if you miss a week or if you miss 2 weeks. Now, if you don't post for 10 weeks and try to make them all up at the end of the semester, you will get docked points for that. So, you know, I because of not being a good team member, you'll still be learning, and it won't be, it depends on the case. If and this has happened, it happens at least once every year, not once a semester. Somebody won't have posted since week 1 or 2 and tries to make them up in week 15. You know, and that causes me to talk to the person one-to-one, and we have, you know, find out what's the situation was all about. So that does happen. People do try and catch up. You won't get full points for doing it. You'll get some points for catching up. But if you miss a week or 2 here or there won't be any points deducted. So don't stress out if, you know, but if you make that week up, if you never post to it, that's a different story. But if you make up that week. Now, we are not using Canvas per se to have our blog posts, have discussions about the blogs. However, Jennifer had us create a blog thread to talk, a post thread to talk about blogging. If you have particular topics that you would like to talk about in Canvas, we can easily create multiple threads. So if there's a sensitive, challenging, controversial issue that you think the whole class should talk about, such as, or a trend such as Chat GPT, I'd be happy to start a thread on Chat GPT, and people could post the articles that they're finding, or the webinars, or trainings that they're finding to help other people understand what Chat GPT is. I attended one this past week. I'm going to attend the one this week, Wednesday, as well. Bo, if you could help me, since Christian's not here, send me a reminder after class to send a link to the Chat GPT to the whole class. And that training, I think some of you might want to attend it. I think it would be good, you know. But it's just like what's that?
While you're talking about ChatGPT, I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to get on this week, but the system had been over inundated with users to the point where multiple times this week it was not accessible at all. So just an FYI.
I didn't see that, but I heard there are a professional version, I think, of ChatGPT has been written or something. There's a free version and there's a pro version apparently, or preferred or premium. So I don't know what the difference is, what the functionality differences are, but you know, everyone's exploring. Just like a decade ago with MOOCs, the media hypes it up really, and then when they find a problem, then they talk only about the bad things. Media only talks about the good stuff or the bad. It's never in between, and technology is always in between. There's always pros and cons. There's always challenges and issues. There's always possibilities, opportunities, strengths. But you either hear only the strengths or only that it's a lot of crap, and we should just move on to something else. We never should just move on to something else. We should think about where the potential uses are and use it to do good in the world, and build from that. But people want everything to be a panacea. They want everything to be the silver bullet that solves all education's problems. And that's not going to happen with ChatGPT. AI, 100 years from now, could be the silver bullet somewhere, but I'm not going to be around to see it when that happens, I don't think, unless it's a medical miracle. Next week, we have one of my very first and favorite former students. When I used to teach at West by God, Virginia University, back from 1989 to 92, she was my graduate assistant. So while I said I'm mostly bringing young people, Cheryl still looks like she's 30 years old, but I don't think she's 30. So Cheryl Murphy is the vice provost for distance education and the leader of the global campus at the University of Arkansas. And let's just say Cheryl's had worked on her master's degree when she was a student of mine. And she walked into a high-level doctoral course as her first class with me. And she was kind of a frightened person when I first met her, because she was with all these advanced doctoral students, and she was the only first-year master's student in the class. But she ended up being my GA for a couple projects on writing as thinking, and then has been at the University of Arkansas for a long time as department chair of ed tech, and has done a lot with Blackboard. She's a Blackboard award-winning instructor. And so she's done a lot with technology and education, now is in charge of distance learning for the University of Arkansas. I thought that would be, kind of cool to bring someone like that in for us to chat with, because that's a different kind of career route moving in that fashion. So I think it would be good for us to listen to. And so that's, in terms of blogging, some people have to give me their blog links still. I think what I might do by the end of today is assign groups for whoever sent me their blog links so far. And so the nine people have. I'm still waiting on 6. And if I check my email, I'm sure I've got a couple more in there from others. So let's wait to the end.
That's what I was just going to ask is if you wanted us to email those to you, because I just got mine up and running.
Yeah, please email them to me. Please.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Did I not say that on my email, or?
I couldn't remember. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, it's okay. I'm just, maybe you're not on the email distribution list. Are you getting is everyone getting my emails? Okay. When I post an announcement, do you guys automatically get the announcements from Canvas, or do I have to send an email as well?
You may have to tell people to check their notification settings. I
Okay.
noticed with, for example, Canvas and the discussion posts, it defaults to I think it's a 3-day notification. So people may get it in their emails, but like 3 days later. So I don't know what the default is for announcements.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Does anyone, I think I have a 5-day lateness policy in this class. So if things are due on Monday, it's really Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night at midnight instead of Monday. It's Monday night, and there's a grace period till Saturday night at midnight. So when is the first assignment due? Does anyone remember?
I think February 18th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Which then you have till February 23rd, a Saturday. So February 18th is a Monday, I believe.
Let's see.
Or 13th is a Monday.
Right, yeah, the 18th.
There.
Yep. So
Two,
task
aren't
3
there?
and task 4 are due that day. And the other one is April 3rd, task 5 and task 6. Those are the main things. There is a task 2, there is a task 1. They're like taking the place of discussion in a face-to-face class, which normally an instructor doesn't say, this is a task, you just do it, You do get points for it in a face-to-face class, but I use a 2+2 system. So we have task 3 and 4 is the first 2, and the task 5 and 6 is the second 2. There are 2 more, which is the blog post and reflections on your blog post, which is very important. I learn a lot from reading your reflections on your blog post. In fact, one of the most enjoyable things I have all semester is reading your reflections on your blog post, because then I get at what is your understanding of the content? What have you learned from the content? And Bo, you might mute your mic. I think we're getting feedback a little bit in there. Thanks. So, and by the way, are you in a diner? Are you at Denny's or in some pub in Purdue, and Mitch Daniels is going to meet with you, or what?
This is my my co-working space. So we've got like a coffee bar here, conference rooms. There's a slide over there, and then back here there's more conference rooms, and there's a big maker space back in that area and stuff. It's a really nice location to work and study.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. If we could get 5 people to visit, I would contemplate picking up Christian and driving up to Purdue for a class, but I don't know. That's just to see your makerspace, but okay.
You're more than welcome. Yeah, we've got everything you need here, technology wise. There's like a recording studio over there on the other side and stuff. So yeah.
Jennifer is in Texas, I think, right? That's going to be a hard
right.
stretch.
No, yeah, not going to make it up there. I used to have family up in Indiana, but not anymore. So maybe someday.
And Nicholas is driving from Texas up to Bloomington. I think he made it to Bloomington. Is that right? Or am I wrong?
Sorry, I'm here now. Yeah.
So you live in Bloomington now? Okay, great.
Yep.
And you're a full-time master's student?
Yes.
Great. Residential master's?
Yep. Residential master's. So
Great.
I had my first day of class with Dr. Bowling
Mhm.
in our studio, and I think a couple other students in this class were there as well.
Okay, and how many were in the class?
Just three of us.
Three of you.
Yeah,
And
I think
Mika?
it was like a bottleneck year
Yeah,
or a semester. So
yeah. It was great to have you in Bloomington. The population increased by 1. It's on the charts. Mika?
Yeah, I'm in Maryland. I'm
Right.
thinking of coming for the conference in March,
Okay.
the IC conference, but I'm not sure as yet. I'll see.
Maybe we'll have a meetup the night before the IST or the night of, after post-conference on the Friday night, meeting up somewhere. That would be good. That'd be some.
Christian and I just got a room booked.
You did? Okay, so
Yep,
Christian,
so we're
you,
good.
I, Mika, Nicholas, and we'll all go to Lenny's for post-conference dinner. How's that?
sounds
Or
good.
someplace. Okay, all right. That's on like March 3rd or something, or?
The 3rd is a conference, so it would be the 4th, but I'm not sure yet. I have to see. And because I was thinking of driving up my husband, but then the drive is about 9 hours or more, and that's a little long for me.
I understand.
Which
So
conference is that y'all are talking about?
the IST is an annual conference. It's called the IST conference.
Okay, I'm new here, first week, second week.
So it's been run for 25 odd years or something like that. It's regional, it's local, it's, about 100, 120 people, or thereabouts. It changes. So it's a 1-day event. And right now we're adding a one day for doctoral students to meet their advisors, or from even master's students to meet their advisors the day before the conference. I was thinking about meeting up the night of the conference at post-conference, so Friday night, after all day, or Thursday night, probably Friday night. Okay, I'm going to go some slides just to say we ran through some. It's already 1 o'clock or a little 5 after 1. I will try not to go past 1:30. Please feel free to interrupt me at any point in time. Just say, hey, you, or something like that. No, I'm going to have some polling questions and some list kind of questions. We'll use the chat window a lot. When Christian's here, we'll set up something in a Jamboard, unless Bo wants to get a Jamboard going and post the link to it. Can you do that for me, Bo, possibly? Okay, great. Okay, let me share my screen here. And again, I've changed a lot of the slides here during the morning hours, early morning hours. So, in this course, we're kind of getting a sense of what instructional technology is, what educational technology is. And you can look these things up online and get word clouds and all sorts of things that kind of wrap around the term instructional technology, which includes mobile learning and collaborative learning and learning objects and distance education and online collaboration, communication, and so forth. And you can look up the word educational technology. You'll find similar words between the two lists, and you can see the words that were listed for me that I pulled out and extrapolated from the word educational technology. But educational technology is a broader term to me. And so when we think about educational technology, it's often the umbrella term. Instruction is more specific to what's going on within the classroom setting. Educational might be in informal settings as well as formal or quasi-informal, formal settings. And so educational technology could be how you learn on an airplane or how you learn while you're hiking and so forth. Instructional technology is more how you learn within a classroom, or when you're teaching a fully online course, it could be within Canvas or Bright Space or something else. There's technologies wrapped all around us. For quite a while, the word ebook was popular, digital books and virtual books and that kind of thing. So learning using technology might foster new ways of reading, new ways of writing through a digital space, if you will, like the student is doing there. We got technologies that are coming at us through apps. I've just become an Audible listener. I was always listening to CDs in my car. Now I have Audible. I can listen on the fly wherever I am. It makes me more untethered to my computer. I'm more mobile. So I'm going to have first question here. How important is technology in education on a scale of 1 to 5? 1 being low and 5 being high. Just everyone post in the chat window how important they see technology in education. So we've got a series of 5s. So let me ask a slightly different question. How impactful has technology been in education during the past decade? How impactful has technology been in education? And I'll say positively impactful as opposed to negatively impactful. On a scale of 1 to 5, we still get both saying a 5. Okay, we've got a lot of 5s here. 4, Mika. Matt, 3. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff. Okay, great. Nicholas takes us back up to an average of almost 4. Okay, great. Okay, let me go back to my slides here. Okay, next question. Where is technology in education, or what technology is popular today? When you walk into an educational setting, what kind of technologies might one see? Just post in the chat window as well. What kinds of technologies will one encounter? I'm curious what people think or view as educational technologies. These smart boards that everyone loves to buy and then complains about after they buy them because no one uses them properly or to a full extent. Okay, I missed one here. Personal technology brought. Learning management, LMS, Google Docs. I was studying tools like Google Docs in 1990, and there were better, as I mentioned in week 1, I think there are better tools back then than what exists today, but Google Docs has improved, I think. People are starting to understand how to use it. LMSs basically take us back to behaviorism. And we're managing learners in an age of learner-centered learning. So it's a really conundrum to be educational technology saying the number one thing that's impacting students' life is a learning management system. We have to control those students. We have to control what they're doing and find out and analyze every step that they take and all their missteps so we can automate in the system and reprogram them to be, basically we're creating automatons. We have to manage learners. We're not freeing the human spirit up. That's my take on the world. We're satisfying administrators and parents and politicians, but we're not satisfying the client. The true client is the learner themselves. Okay. Abacuses. All right. Hey, now we're talking. Now we got something sweet here. Okay. So, so a number of technologies. Let me go back to the slides again. Any comments? Any comments before I go back to the slides?
This is just a comment on what you were saying about the LMS. I almost feel like oftentimes they're more not learning management systems, but more instructional management systems. They're more for the teacher to organize themselves than for the organization of the student or the learner itself. There. So yeah.
Teacher management systems.
Yeah.
Teacher guides systems, or teacher guidance platforms.
Yeah. TGPs.
TGPs, teacher guidance platforms, and that's what they are. They help you structure your course to some degree, and they can help you think about making your content available in different formats so as to address diverse learners. That's the ultimate goal. But they're not explicit in that regard, you know. And some students excel in the chat space, right? And others would excel in the conferencing space, communication. Others would excel more in reflective blogging, you know, because they're more, maybe a little more introverted or want to take their time before they share with everyone else. So asynchronous becomes the preferred mode. Others prefer the synchronous because they want that rapid participation and the immediacy that happens within synchronous. So it's varied in nature. Let me go back to the slides again. Okay, next slide here. So how do we use them? We use technology to communicate back and forth, FaceTime. My daughter loves FaceTime, and I love checking in with her and her daughter and her son. Notice I didn't say grandkids. They call me Kurt. We use technology to learn as well, you know, whether it's the old CAI, computer-assisted instruction programs, the old B.F. Skinner behavioral model of positive reinforcement as you get answers correct, negative when you don't. So trying to, from a behavioral model, trying to incrementally have students learn in small bits, if you will. But we also use Wii technology or haptic technology, like those people doing exercises on the left-hand side to engage the learners, to involve the full sensory, high fidelity kind of experience. We might, in one of my studies, we had kids communicating with grandparents in India about their writing. They were doing wiki-based writing and their grandparents were giving them feedback and so forth. Fascinating stuff is possible with technology to involve the whole family environment, if you will, to create a community of learners, to create opportunities for people to extend beyond their classroom settings, to have learning take place in and among within their community of discourse, to have learning happen within the language ed. People talk about the funds of knowledge in their community. I'm bringing the funds of knowledge with Ling and Zihang and Cheryl, and in a couple weeks, we'll have Natalie and you. We'll have many people come into this class. So this class is no longer just resident in Canvas. It extends well beyond Canvas. Matt had a question. Matt.
Oh, no, I was just a quick observation. At the initial year of the pandemic, my daughters were second grade in kindergarten, and we saw Google, the classroom apps get used in the ways we were just describing a moment ago for my very young daughters. And it was very odd to see it, and somehow they adapted. Whether or not it was the most effective thing, I guess that's, you know, to know down the road when we get more research and whatnot. But I couldn't help but reflect on how things would have been so much different had we not had the ed tech that we have today. It would have just been a totally different experience and maybe not so good.
It's an important point because we hear people belabor the fact technology didn't work. They all saying if it hadn't worked to some degree, it would have been a total collapse of the system. It kept things afloat. It may have been inferior to the traditional. I took correspondence courses to get into grad school. They were not as good as face-to-face courses, but if I hadn't had those correspondence courses, I wouldn't be here today. There are many people whose lives have changed because of MOOCs. They've taken courses in learning analytics like Zihang. They're taking Python programming. They're taking leadership training, and they got changed the new positions. So they moved up in the totem pole, or they kept their current job because of upskilling and reskilling, weren't fired. People's lives are changing. It's not the traditional model of education. These are new models, and we're comparing them to the old models, and that's a problem. So comparing what happened with kids and adults during the 2-3 years of the pandemic to what happened previously is kind of an apples to oranges kind of thing. It's a typical thing that happens in education space. Instead of pointing out what were some of the positives and what were the negatives that we could fix potentially, people are just either pointing out the negatives or the positives. Again, it happens all the time. Had ed tech not existed, so the field of ed tech's gotten front page news for the past few years. Before the pandemic, online learning moved from the back page to the front page. It was happening to a large degree already. It just got accelerated. So the people who are interested in the field of IST or learning, design, and technology comes across the spectrum from law, which Ling talked about, the law students. Business people are definitely interested. We got many people from business schools trying to get a master's or a PhD. They're teaching in the business school without a PhD. They come to IST and get one. Nursing's the same. So the field is very impactful. But now this, on the right-hand side, we get into creation, participatory learning, contributory learning. We're moving away from receptive kinds of learning or cognitive forms of learning where the teacher's a facilitator or a guide, to creation or co-creation of knowledge in a team or a community, if you will, and having a podcast show, having a YouTube channel, having a Twitter line feed, creating a multimedia glossary for the class, a wiki book, which my students have done in various classes. So, you know, there are all these tools that help teachers, whether they're online grade books, which have flaws, which I pointed out yesterday in Silver Lining for Learning, or there are rubrics or quiz-based tools. They serve a purpose. They're not flawless, but there are all these apps that can hopefully make teachers' lives somewhat easier and somewhat more creative, if you will, to enable them to take a role as facilitator of the learning process, to nudge, prompt, hint, give clues, to scaffold, to rouse minds to life. The whole notion here is trying to be an intelligent partner, which ChatGPT could be, for the student to have a conversation with them about what their tactics they're using when they're solving a problem, to get them to be at a higher level of strategizing and have them internalize those strategies so they can use them on their own when they don't have a teacher, when they're off in the woods hiking. They will have internalized those different cognitive strategies, if you will. And also those life skills, those digital learning skills to enable them to create artifacts. So I have this calendar I created, which I think Bo saw when he came down to Bloomington. I think I gave Christian one. I think you saw it, right, Bo? Maybe I didn't give it to you, but
yes, I have one as well.
You have one, good, okay. So, you know, this is what we want students to do, to generate knowledge, something new, something creative. Oh, you have it there with you or not?
No, it's at my house. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So it's something different. And we want students to create something different, something unique. That's Education 4.0. It's having students create knowledge, not just receive knowledge. And some of that knowledge creation is in teams, with a teacher as a coach, a guide, a counselor, a conseiller. In what I call Education 2020, the new roles of the instructor are multifaceted. The new roles of students are as well. And so this is an age where ed tech or instructional tech or IST or learning design technology or whatever you want to call it is making a huge impact. And so we need the Department of Ed. And if you've downloaded my slides, by the way, all these are new part. I've just added all these. The Department of Ed. And I had at one point a guest in this class who is the head of the Department of Ed Educational Technology division for the Obama administration. He's a good friend of mine. And he came in, his name is Rich Collada. Rich is now the president and CEO of ISTE, the International Society of Technology and Education. I could bring Rich back at any point. They have a report here, Reimagining the Role of Technology in Education, the National Ed Tech Plan. Chris Deedy, my podcast partner, was one of the writers of that report. My guest last week in Silver Lining, Jenny Majira, from Google Head for Education, she used that report and was part of the committee, planning committee as well. So if you want to listen to an interesting session in Silver Lining for Learning, go to last week, because Google people talk about the future of education. They wrote a report, a 3-part report, including creating ecologies of learning. Anyways, you go to the Office of Ed Tech, you can get now reports on artificial intelligence. Of course, everybody's talking about it. Also immersive learning and other kinds of things you could download at that website, tech.ed.gov. I will post these slides. Bo will remind me after class because I posted the old version in there. If you scroll down off of that homepage, you can get articles on equity and inclusion. again on AI and defining what AI is and how to use AI to engage learners. If you go to the ISTE website, which Rich Collada is in charge of today, you get a lot of standards. So some students are really interested in what are the standards of educational technology across the country. You might take a look and click on the standards button. They also have professional development opportunities. Sophia Mendoza was a guest in Silver Lining 2 years ago. I will try and bring her back next month when we have our 3rd year anniversary edition of Silver Lining. She will be the person I recommend we bring back. She's in the LA school district, one of the largest school districts in the country she's in charge of. She says aligning our district strategy to ISTE standards gave us both a vision and focus we needed to accelerate instructional transformations in our schools. And I'm fine. That she was a student in the system and she became in charge of it now. It's really cool. So there are a lot of things you can find at the ISTE website, including articles on coaching and how teachers can be more of a guide, including computational thinking and the competencies thereof. And if you click on ISTE computational thinking competencies, you can find a number of things that people need, such as collaborating about computing, computational thinking, equity, and so forth, and getting more specific. If you pare down a little bit, and this is part of the screen, I just grabbed some screenshots at 3 a.m. this morning. Learn to recognize where and when computation can be used to enrich the data. Setting professional goals to explore and apply teaching strategies for integrating computational thinking. Leveraging resources in computational thinking and computer science and the professional networks that you have in your community. Developing resilience and perseverance and so forth. In collaboration, applying effective teaching strategies to support student collaboration, pairing and working together. Planning activities across disciplines, strengthening that, and so forth and so on. Creativity, designing authentic tasks for the learning process, more human-centered tasks. These are all part of the standards that are listed at ISTE, and in particular for computational thinking standards, which is the big buzzword today. And many of the faculty in IST right now have grants that buy them out of teaching because they have computational thinking grants. So in your chat window, what would 1 or 2 of your ed tech standards be if you were in charge, if you were Sylvia Mendoza or Sophia Mendoza in charge of the standards in LA school district, or if you're a Rich Collada in charge of ISTE, what would 1 of your standards be? I'm just curious what people would list, if anything. Thank you for posting the link there, Bo. I'm just curious, Thank you, Jennifer. Negative, yeah, we all have negatives, and believe me, I'm certified as a public accountant. Standards are not something I like to talk about much because of Enron and all the unethical things that happened that changed the accounting profession. I studied for the ethics exam for 20 minutes and passed. I didn't become more ethical after those, but I met the standards, right? Anyways, facilitate open-ended tasks, something like that. Okay, to facilitate open-ended tasks. Anyone have a standard? Is flexible enough to meet the needs of all learners. Okay, great. Yeah. So my R2D2 book is designed for that. My Empowering Online Learning is set up to address that. Open-ended tasks that have multiple entry points and also multiple exit points for learners at different levels. Personalized learning could be an umbrella for a lot of things that we could do. Great, thanks, Mika. Okay, we're on the right track here. Good. That's not, and by the way, it's something you could reflect in your blog this week. You could say during the synchronous session, we talked a bit about standards. I went to the ISTE standards, and this is my reflection on those standards or what I think should be in place. Could be one of the assignments that you pick as well. I wouldn't personally, well, maybe if a challenge that it'd be kind of hard It's taken them a couple of years, probably 10 years to come up with those standards, but with 100 people working on it, but it's a challenge. Okay, so what organizations should you join? One such organization IST will recommend over and over and over again to you is the Association for Educational Computing and Technology, AECT, which has a conference in Orlando in October this coming year. It might be early November, but I think it's near the third week in October. It was in Vegas last year. Office in Vegas, Kansas City. It's been in Jacksonville a lot. Chicago. It was in Chicago the year before last. Then just as graduates in IST is the local organization that you might want to join or might want to become the president of or a secretary or treasurer of and get something on your resume. On all these organizations are pretty much all you can volunteer to review papers for and get that on your resume as well. Just do something small. AERA is the big organization, American Education Research Association, has 15,000 people at their conferences. It'll be in Chicago this year in April, in mid-April, face-to-face, virtually in May. It's the first time they'll hold a virtual and a face-to-face conference. I'd recommend the face-to-face personally, but ISPI, International Society of Performance Improvement, one of my doc students who just defended last year got outstanding dissertation from ISPI, or she'll be getting that. She just found out. It's more for people in corporate training. ISTE, International Society of Tech in Education, is more K-12 organization. So ISPI, more corporate, ISTE, more K-12, AERA tends to be more K-12, but also it has everything. They have special interest groups on grief and dying and forgiveness and on instructional tech, you name it. They have an organization on advanced technologies. They have all sorts of things in every single thing you could think of in education. And then AECE. I'm a member of AECE. I helped create 2 conferences, Global Learn, and I helped run the eLearn conference. I helped create Global Time for them. They're out of the East Coast. They run a SITE conference, which is Society for Information Technology Education, which is more K-12. And many people go from IST, SITE conference is usually in March. They have the Ed Media Conference, which is international in Europe, Canada, and US. I've gone to it many times. And we went to New York, my student and I, and she won a student best paper this past June. And I've run the Global Learn and eLearn again for AECE. So there's a number of organizations I'll mention. These are the students involved with Dr. O in GIST. She helps run the GIST. These are current students in the program, and they have a Twitter feed and other kinds of things. And that's the School of Atrium with the banner behind. And then Zihang mentioned, I just put this in my slides while Zihang was talking, Unizen, POD, and EDUCAUSE. She didn't talk about what POD stands for. And Bo, can you look up what POD, POD, I think it's professional development, but what's the O? I'm blanking, it's not online. Professional and organizational development, or it's really helping people.
Yes, it's professional and organizational development.
Hey, lucky. I should get in the lottery yesterday. So yeah, just guessed. But it's really for people who are interested in teaching pedagogy online. And then EDUCAUSE is this giant umbrella for techie people. And they have reports, as she mentioned, the top 10 tech. They have a report every year called, the EDUCAUSE Horizon Report. So the Horizon Report comes out once or twice a year, usually once in the early part of the year, and it covers what's the current topics, very short pieces, 2-page articles on each of the current topics that are 6 months away from happening, 2 years away from happening, 5 years away. It's like on the horizon. I highly recommend it, and it's free. It used to be from the New Media Consortium, but now EDUCAUSE bought that report out, and they offer it as a free report every year. So in your syllabus is this book, Mike Melendez's book on educational technology definitions. Also, Bob Reeser's book is in there, Instructional Design and Technology. And his newer version of that particular book is there as well. And Ali Carr-Chelman's Issues in EdTech Learning and Instructional Design. But it's definitions that we want to look at. And I've tried pulling out a couple of pages from that book. If you want to read that this week, I'm running short on time. So let me just pull out some highlights from that article. I'll apologize on the front end. Some of these are quotes. I'll try and pull a few things from each one of these pages a little bit at a time. So what Mike Melinda is pointing out is that EdTech as a field, EdTech as a definition, has continued to evolve and change over time. In today's conception of EdTech, it's an abstract concept in some ways, but it's also something that impacts our practice. So he starts first, let's look at the concept of it. EdTech definition is the study and ethical practice of facilitating learning and improving performance by creating, using, and managing appropriate technological processes and resources. That's a lot, that's a mouthful, right? But it's the word ethics that got added in most recently, and also appropriate technological processes. And also not just receiving, but creating. So it's a study and ethical practice of facilitating learning, not just receiving learning, but we facilitate learning. So we're moving us from education 1.0 to 2 or 3.0. Instead of receptive forms of learning, we're generating learning. The term learning does not connotate today what it meant 40 years ago. There's heightened awareness to think about learner-centered learning and the acquisition of knowledge, skills, and attitudes beyond the classroom. And so now the model is more complex. And so it includes creating, includes reusing, includes managing. So it's not just learning management systems, it is the wiki books that we create with other people or the blog posts that we generate and how teachers then might facilitate learning in such environments. The definition differs from previous definitions to focus on study rather than just research, the study of, not the research on. Second, makes explicit ethics and, as I said, facilitation of the learning process. It is intentional. The learner's at the center of this definition. It's no longer instructor-centered and just a focus on on the technology itself. It is now focused on what the learner can do with such technologies and improve their performance, facilitate learners to meet their goals, to guide the learners, to scaffold the learners, to have them take on roles where they might create, use, or manage that technology. It's more eclectic, I guess the definition is. And again, the word appropriate use of technology, to have ethical, to have it, to think about who benefits and for what purpose are we using this technology, not just automatically using the latest and greatest thing because it exists, but think who benefits and who's not benefiting. How is it equitably being allocated and used and considered and resourced and made accessible to people across the spectrum, across the world, who might not have the immediate access to the internet that we have become accustomed to here. And so, how can we improve the lives of young as well as older learners through educational technology, appropriate use, ethical use, and equitable use of such technology? So this is the definition. Again, I already read this once. Bob Reeser, in his book, he'll talk about the 5 parts here. We get into instructional design, development, evaluation, management, and utilization of technology. Mike Spector, who was a guest last fall, Bo will remember in R622, he was one of my guests that I had. He has his model to think about the theoretical underpinnings of the use of educational technology. And you'll notice that a heavy strand is in communications theory. I'm not too surprised by that, as well as psychology of learning. I'm not too surprised about that either. And informatics, human-computer interaction at the top, not surprising as well. This discipline is really interdisciplinary in nature. My good friend Betty Collis, who recently retired from the Netherlands, she was born in Canada, We tried to recruit her to IU. I took her to an IU basketball game with her husband. That didn't convince her. I think we won the game. It was 20 odd years ago. I apologize to Bo for not driving up to Purdue and taking him to the Chicago Bears Green Bay Packer game, which I should have done December 3rd. I did have it in my brain, Bo. I just sorry I didn't go to the game. I will.
I have tickets.
I will next season. I know you have tickets, and that's why it went on my calendar right away. I will take advantage of that at some point. You know, if your wife doesn't get mad at me or something, you know. So, does she like to go? No.
She hates it. She
Okay.
hates it.
Good. Tell her to keep hating it. So I tried convincing Betty Collis to come here. We wanted a senior female in the field 20 years ago. And she was recruited. Professor Bowling, I think, helped recruit her. She came, and she didn't move to Indiana, unfortunately. There's been other cases that I've seen other people too along the way that we could have had, almost had, anyhow. She has an article, I think it's the best one for this week, or one of the best. The last two articles in this week's readings list are also quite good. I will recommend, let me just quickly go to that. So the articles from Tom Reason and Linlin, the research we have is not what we need. It's in my special issue of ETR&D from 2 years ago. And Terry Anderson, who was a guest in this class a year and a half ago from Canada, a critical look at ed tech from distance education perspective. The last two articles, so basically the last three articles are the ones I recommend the most, but Michael Spector's is the fifth article, Bob Reeser's is the fourth article, Mike Melinda's is the third. So all these people, the first two as well as with Mike Melinda. So Betty tries to get us to think about a lot of things. And she uses the word flexible, because flexible is becoming this buzzword in education. This was an article written 20 years ago, 21 years ago. And they were in Australia, they didn't have instructional designers. They created flexible learning consultants. In the UK, they didn't have instructional designers. They had flexible learning consultants. If you listen to Ling and you listen to Zihang, they're not instructional designers, they're flexible learring consultants. That's a better title. I'd love to have that in my job description. If you do get a job offer, Jennifer, from someplace in Texas, tell them that's what the title, create a title. Don't go with what they gave. See if you can create your own title. People used to do that in the .com era all the time. Vice president of stuff, all sorts of things. Flexible learning, it gets us a thing beyond the traditional IST models. It offers both opportunities as well as challenges, because to be flexible requires you to think about a lot of components in the system, right, that you hadn't necessarily thought about: the pedagogy, the technology, the institution, the learner, and so forth. And so flexible learning has come with distance learning, because it enables that flexibility with correspondence courses, with TV courses, now with online or blended or fully online courses. We have more flexible forms of learning. You can come to these sessions in Zoom, or you can watch the archive, the video later. Okay, so it's a flexible learning is a move away from having to set up at a set point in time, set path, set place, set learning outcomes, to have your own kinds of learning outcomes. So it's no longer a set time, no longer a set tempo or pace. We control the pace, we control the path of learning, okay, and the place of learning. And so these are putting more focus on learner-centered instruction. You might have different curriculum components. We have different readings for each one of you. We have different learning materials, maybe even different assessments based on the tasks that you selected. You have different assessments. And maybe even different conditions for participation in the tasks, potentially. Different organizational structures that you have within your task, one-to-one, team-based, inter-institutional, which my students did in writing wikibooks. We worked with students in China. We worked with students at Texas A&M. We worked with students in Korea and Finland and other parts of the world. And then we can have all these open educational resources today, whether they're ebooks at IU Library or their animations or simulations or other kinds of things. And they can be translated today with, these language translation tools to your own native language potentially. And so, all these options provide a heavy burden, though, on instructors to try and keep track of all the communication tools that the students have, all the ways in which their preferred ways of learning. So an AI bot might help them as a guide along the way to negotiate all those options that now are available to learners, which are friends. Now I'll say Betty calls my first ed media in 1999. She ran a pre-conference symposium. It attracted 100 people. Normally these pre-conference symposiums attract 10 or 20. It was on e-learning when e-learning was the heyday. And I participated in that and I got to know Betty from that experience. It was great. It was in Seattle in 99. But the problem is it's unmanageable for some instructors. It increases the time required, increases their brain capacity, and all these permutations that happen, it's hard to keep track of. It requires you to think about re-engineering your class. It requires you to think about, each individual need, which is not an economy of scale that universities want to pay for, So who ends up, spending more time is the instructors oftentimes, but you're creating a culture of learning. It's not originally in the job description of instructor to create a culture of learning, right? And to redesign your content to be more flexible for all learners, because it takes time to do a flipped classroom and create those video scenarios or case-based learning and create those video cases or animations and so forth. It takes time to create a MOOC and other kinds of things. She has some advice in her article. I'll let you read. I won't go through all these things, but she talks about being specific. And she talks about the fact that you can't not do this. You have to think about the learners in new ways today. And you have to think about the environment. You have to think about the effectiveness. You have to think about the engagement. And you have to think about, there's a fourth E that she's on: environment, effectiveness, engagement, and I don't see the fourth one. But anyways, there are 4 E's. And she has to think about who can help you as a role model in designing such a class, who can be your assistant like Ling or Zihang or other kind of people might be. She says more is not necessarily better. You have to put constraints on the system at some point. You have to reel back in, even though you want to do everything. You can't just keep adding because a new technology comes. Oh, I'd like to do this chat GPT activity. Oh, I'd like to do this other. Just because it exists doesn't mean you need to incorporate it in. You have to think critically. Thoughtful use of technology in education is what's important. Don't try to do too much at once. 1 new thing a semester, 2 new things a semester. That's it. So anyways, when I typed in ed tech, these are some of the visuals I found online. I'm just showing you the tip. They're all pretty much the same. You have facilitate learning, appropriate technology, ethical practice, think about creating, managing, using, and so forth. Same kinds of things come up overall. So my final departing thought or question for today: what is ed tech to you? And Mika, you typed in something in the chat window. You want to read what that or discuss that?
Oh, Boyd asked a question because I mentioned that GIST has multiple volunteer opportunities this year. So I am the EDD student rep for GIST this year.
Hey.
Yes.
Okay, we have the person in this class.
And I'm one of the leads for the events team this year. So Boyd asked a question about what kinds of volunteer opportunities there are. So there's a creative team, hospitality, events team helps with the keynote speakers, getting everything set up on the day. Then registration, facilitations, technical support. So that's something Christian may want to help with. I see it in his eyes. He wants to get involved. And, advertising and social media. Yeah. So
Christian, you want to unmute Christian?
Sure.
I know I put you on the spot.
Does everybody know what this tool is?
No.
It's a voltmeter to tell it whether or not the power is going to something. So
hook it up to your brain.
Yeah. Go see, is the positive on one side and a negative on the other. Oh, There's no activity.
So Mr. Christian is not walking the plank. He is our guest. He is my third TA in this class. He'll be coming every Monday that he can. He has some commitments already, including today. He thanks for sneaking in here at the end here, Christian. Before we go, Christian, you want to tell them a little bit about 511 and your experience in 511 and what they can expect?
So my 511 experience was actually the first semester of my master's coursework, which was in the fall of 2018. I took 3 classes that semester, and it was the first semester figuring out like what life in a graduate program was like, and I was completely overwhelmed. But 511 was a great, very grounding course. It was really important for me to be able to understand the essentials of what our field's about, because I didn't come from our field. I have a psychology background. And then I've worked in public school system most of my working career, but ed tech was something that was kind of always around, but I never really understood exactly what it meant. I thought I did, like, okay, technology, and I was working in assistive technology a lot with some of the special needs students that I worked with, but it was not what I had in mind. And so the 511 course really helped me to clarify all the different concepts around ed tech that are floating out there.
Yeah, and so you took that with me, I'm assuming.
I didn't know.
You did? Okay. Who'd you have it with?
That's a good question. I'd have to look it up.
That's okay. So tell you've had several with me. Tell people what to expect out of my course.
Out of the box thinking, pushing you creatively to investigate the bounds of what you're studying. So whether it's ChatGPT or how you go about communicating with your classmates, Dr. Bonk really strives to help you lead the conversation so that you can better each other's knowledge set, all while helping you along the pathway of all the intense knowledge that's out there about our field. There's a lot out there. And so, yeah, he's a great guide.
Thank you, Christian. An unpaid comment, thank you. On the spot. He wouldn't pass his dissertation unless he says something nice anyway. So, no. And when are you taking quals?
I don't know. We should probably talk about that.
Okay, all right. So any final comments or questions in week 2? Again, Bo's going to remind me of a couple things before you arrived here. I had so there's a ChatGPT thing happening Wednesday. I'll be sending an email to everyone about, and there's a couple other things. I'll try and set up the teams tonight for the blog once I have enough of those. And Christian, you can help me with setting up the teams for blogs and that kind of thing. But you won't be responding to the blogs. Just help me on the front end here. Thanks everyone for coming. I'm going to stop the recording here in a second. Stopping the recording. So week 2, we are done.